Hey, Steve Saretsky here. As always, there's a couple blog posts that go with this. There's going to be, this is really important. There's going to be a lot of graphs, charts, and data that goes with this because this is, of course, the Vancouver real estate March update, not only for the detached market but as well for condos and townhouses. So I'm going to try to break this down and make it as simple as possible. Obviously, there's a lot of moving pieces on each market. Each specific area is slightly different. But I'm going to cover the detached market first and then work our way through the condos and townhouse markets. Basically, the detached market probably varies, I would say, the most by area. It can give you specific examples. In the west side, things are very, very slow still. Things, if it's priced well, we're still seeing the occasional fire sale where you list it way below assessed values, that sort of thing, and then of course it gets multiple offer sales over ask, and so everybody starts to think that the market is it's back, heating up. The foreign buyers are back, that sort of thing. It's still very slow in that sort of high-end market, and then you can go into the sort of more affordable areas. Look at the east side of Vancouver. We're starting to see a lot of multiple offers there as well. I don't have the exact numbers, but I think previous calculations from earlier in March was it looked like almost around 30% of detached homes were selling over asking price. Again, a lot of the strategy seems to be that the realtors are going to list them low, sort of like that fire sale, just sort of get rid of the house sort of thing. But there's obviously still a lot of demand, basically under that $1.5 million range, and again, we're seeing that mostly in East Van, with of course these multiple offers. So. With that being said, obviously sales have dropped again. That's been the trend over the last 8 months, really, and nothing has really changed there. So the detached sales have dropped 47%. I think it was 46 or 47% year over year from March 2016 to March 2017. So we saw again that roughly 50% decline. So yes, sales are down. Something I've talked about a lot. But the big story seems to be that new listings are also dropping. And for Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver, the detached listings new listings dropped 37% year over year. So basically what's happening is, yes, you obviously have a plummeting sales, but then when you start to get plummeting new listings as well, that can keep prices relatively sticky, and that's what we're basically seeing. The inventory is still up 11% year over year, so higher inventory, lower sales, but as well, what's really keeping prices from falling is new listings. So we had a significant cool off basically in the fall and winter. I had detaches down about 15% sort of thing. We're starting to see some of that ground again start to be made up. Prices are starting to, seems like they're potentially picking back up. It's very specific to each sort of area, but when you start to get multiple offers in areas like East Vancouver, again, that product that's basically under 1.5 that a local can afford, because that's what I'm seeing in the market right now is mostly locals buying. Anytime you start to get multiple offers, that's when it pushes prices back up. And a key indicator of the market is the sales to actives ratio, which for March for the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver was at 25%. And so basically anything over 20% is considered a seller's market. So, I wouldn't, it just depends on each area. It's saying it's a seller's market. You look at the months of inventory, it's around 4, so that's what's considered a balanced market. So I wouldn't necessarily say that sellers have the upper hand. Again, in certain markets, at certain price points, it's still a seller's market. And then again, as you get over that 1.5 sort of thing, that's when the detached really starts to slow down, because the foreign money, it's yes, of course, it's still here, but it's not even close to the extent that it was a year ago. So, the detached market is very interesting to watch. Obviously, with the condo market, which I'm going to talk about now, it has absolutely exploded. It'll be interesting to see if that growth stems from the bottom up. Originally, we thought that the detached would start to move and push things down, but with obviously the drop in new listings, it's keeping prices sticky. What's basically happening is people are going back And when you had inventory that was sitting 2, 3, 4 months over the long winter periods where nobody was buying, inventory was stacking up. As new listings have been flowing over the last couple months, people are now going back and revisiting old listings, and those are starting to move now. So, if someone's hoping for a correction in the detached market or a crash, whatever you want to call it, obviously I'm one of those guys that thinks that a correction for the long-term health of the Vancouver real estate market is probably going to be healthy. It's probably needed, but in terms of that happening right now, that doesn't look like it's going to be the case. It actually, I would say it's trending on the upwards, where it looks like the detached market could actually heat back up again. Again, that's anyone's guess in terms of how long that actually plays out, but the trend right now seems to be up as opposed to down, which is what we saw previously over the last few months. So that's what I'm seeing in the detached markets. I know some of the viewers aren't going to be maybe too happy about that, etc. But that's where we're at. And in terms of, I guess, the condo market, that is it's a full-on mess out there. Basically, I've put out certain reports over the last month where basically we're seeing roughly 50% of condos selling over asking price. In Richmond, which I've done examples of as well, where the sales to active ratio was at 98%. So it just absolutely destroyed any previous record. Basically, everything is selling. Any dodgy building, I've talked about buildings that have massive levies coming up with, $15,000, $20,000 assessments coming up for a new rain screen, new, balcony membranes, that sort of thing. Those are still selling on multiple offers. So, it really makes no sense. It's some of what's happening is it's hard. You can't justify some of these prices. You can't justify some of these decisions. So for me, that's a little bit what concerns me. Whether people aren't doing their homework and getting into multiple offers on these buildings that are deteriorating and have a lot of massive upcoming work to be done. It makes no sense to me, but that's what we're seeing. And again, with the sales to active ratio at 98%, because nobody's listing properties, the inventory is even lower than last year. Just trying to pull up the inventory for condos right now. Inventory levels are down 35% year over year. So if you thought last year that there was a supply issue or that inventory was so low because nobody was selling, it's down 35% this March. So that's really what's happening. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily a huge pop in demand. Obviously, we've seen the sales numbers falter. It's really just coming down to there's just not enough. People aren't listing. There's no inventory. So the few buyers that you have, I wouldn't say few. There's obviously still quite a few buyers out there, a lot of buyers. But the buyers that are out there are all ending up at the same product. They're always competing. That's the story right now. And I've talked about this before. Obviously, you have Christy Clark's subprime loans that they're giving out to first-time buyers, enticing them to get into the market, and that's only making things worse. Again, it's just terrible economic policy. It's really making condos even more unaffordable at that entry level. You can go and look at North Surrey. That's the Wally area. The sales to active ratio there, I believe, is at 99% or something like that. So basically, those are all going into multiple offer, and that's an area where condos were basically stagnant for the last 10 years. All of a sudden Wally's the place to be. Again, you can try to justify it. To me, it's signs of an unhealthy market. The things that I'm a little bit concerned about, again, there's with the government and obviously the central banks, they're going to do everything they can to keep this prolonged, and this will likely play out for longer than I think anyone actually anticipates. So that's why I never make any predictions. I can just simply state that there's things that I'm seeing that concern me, that are unhealthy. But again, if you're trying to time the market and hoping for that crash or that huge correction, it does not appear to be happening right now. We had that cool down, but it's definitely picking right back up. So it'll be interesting to watch how the next few months sort of play out and see if this trend continues. So. Again, that's the story for condos. Sales are down. They're still well above the 10-year averages, but the big story here is inventory, which has dropped 35% year over year. basically because nobody's listing properties right now. And in terms of townhouses, again, that's sort of a mixed bag depending on where you go. Each specific area, you know, basically the story is sales again are down. They're still above the 10-year average. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Again, inventory is up. I think it's up 11%. So yeah, inventory is slightly up from last year, but not enough because obviously last year we had massive bidding wars, huge escalation of prices. So the big catalyst, even though inventory is up 11%, sales are down. New listings again are dropping. So it's sort of keeping prices where they're at. There's obviously still a demand for townhouses as people got priced out of the detached market. There's still some appetite for townhouses for families. There's really not a whole lot of options. It's kind of, basically you buy a detached home or you buy a condo. So the very few townhouses that are out there, those are still selling very well. Price wise, I would say they're basically flat, treading water. They had lost some value. I've talked about this before. I had them losing about 7% of their value over the fall and winter months. It looks into 2017 that they've regained a lot of that, and I would say they're sort of back to where they were at their peak price. So, and the sales to active ratio for townhouses is around 63%. Yeah, 63%. So obviously, again, anything over 20 is a seller's market. So anytime that you have a sales to active ratio of 63%, that's going to put pressure on prices to go up. So that seems to be the trend where the sales to active ratio has been consistently climbing over the last couple months. Again, that's also partly seasonal. Obviously, you have the busy spring, March. That's the buying frenzy, so to speak. So, March, April, May, it's going to be a seasonal uptick, but a lot of that is not only seasonal, but it is the market somewhat shifting again. So that's kind of what I see. There's a lot of things that, combing through the numbers, obviously feet on the ground, talking to other realtors. There's a lot of different perspectives out there. And everybody asks me about specific areas, where they're giving me specific examples in each area. And again, this is a little bit of a generalized statement. Each area is slightly different, but for the most part, they all perform relatively the same. So, what's happening in Vancouver or East Van or Richmond is likely happening in North Vancouver and vice versa. These are all interconnected. So, if Vancouver drops 10, 15, 20, 30%, whatever you want to call it, it's the same thing is going to happen in North Vancouver. Same thing is going to happen in Maple Ridge. There's no one sort of area that's going to be immune to it. These are all connected. I would almost say that BC in general, is really a connected market. If again, these are all hypotheticals, but if you want to tell me that if Vancouver was to correct by say 20 or 30%, even 15, that Victoria or Kelowna or whatever wouldn't have some sort of correction, I think that would be false. So people would just start moving back because obviously we've seen a lot of that shift in the last really a year or so. People have been shifting out of Vancouver into the island, into the interior for affordability reasons. And, obviously if Vancouver becomes more affordable, I'm sure someone will move back, etc. But these are all interconnected. So if you're asking about specific areas, I can certainly, you can comment in the description below and I'll try to get back to you some figures and stats on that. But I can't talk about each specific area and each blog post, etc. So there's going to be a couple links again in the description below. I highly encourage you to check those out. That's for all of the Vancouver real estate updates, all the stats, graphs, charts. It's going to give you everything more than I can talk about here. It's going to help you illustrate a point, but this is just some of the talking things that I see. The detached market, basically as a grand thesis or summarization, the detached market has definitely picked up a little bit. I wouldn't say it's red hot in certain areas. It certainly is, such as the east side of Vancouver. Again, condos are red hot basically anywhere, everywhere. They're setting new price highs. It's a total gong show out there right now. Same thing with these pre-sales. You're seeing assignments flipping at these obscene amount of costs. That's going to be a video for another time. And townhouses, again, they're sort of vary by area, but I would say they've sort of picked up some value recently over the last few months after losing some over the winter months, and obviously are still quite hot with a very high sales to active ratio. So anyways, guys, hope that helped. I know it's sort of long-winded, getting close to 15 minutes here, but trying to get it all in for you. I should try to do a couple more videos this week. I think my next one will probably be on Vancouver pre-sales. Some stuff that I really want to get off my chest there. I think there's a massive Ponzi scheme going on. I mean, that's probably no news to anybody, but it's something that is certainly infuriating me and some of the other realtors in my office that I've spoken with. So I think it needs to get a little bit more light, and that's something that I'll be talking about. So anyways, if you can do me a favor, obviously trying to grow the YouTube subscription channel here, trying to provide as much value to you as possible. If you can subscribe, if you got any comments, questions about the market, put them in the comments below. And I appreciate all your support. Chat soon.